Okay, so this era's problem, energy and sustainable energy for our future. These are the questions, and I'm going to try to tell you about sustainable energy aspects, and most of it will revolve around electrical energy because it is the most used kind. And something to help with sustainability is smart grids. So we'll talk about that as well. As I mentioned, electrical energy is actually a big part of the problem. It's the most popular form of energy, actually. It's the most used form of energy. And it is easy to transmit, if you will. It's very convenient. However, it has some problems that is affecting our globe. So we will talk about that. Now, to talk about electrical energy, we need to talk about first the electrical power system, the means in which we can supply the needed electrical energy. The power system of today is in four major parts. Generation. Okay, have some, okay, we'll have to mute some of the participants. Janer, can you help me with that? See if anybody is unmuted.
Yes, hocam, I have already.
Okay. Okay, so generate electrical power, transmit it, distribute it, and the okay, am I okay now?
Yes,
hocam, it's okay now.
Okay. So the four parts of our system, we generate power, transmit it, distribute it, and finally the loads get it. If we have to put it in a pictorial form, we have different types of power plants where we generate electricity from hydro, coal, nuclear, solar, wind, all sorts of different power plants. And the voltage level for that is increased, so we can transmit it more efficiently. High voltage means lower current. Lower current means lower losses. Actually, losses quadratically decrease as the current decreases. But once we get near the cities, we need to lower the voltage for safety reasons. High voltage is not great around people. And then finally, the users get the electricity. Here's a simplified version of the electrical power system. Electrical energy is generated, voltage raised through transformers, go through transmission lines, then voltage dropped again to medium voltage levels, we call it, through the lines, overhead lines, or underground, as it is in our campus, near the house. Of course, the energy, again, electrical voltage level is reduced, so we see from our plug, we get the 240 volts. So there's the journey of the electron to your house. So let's talk about first the generation part of things. And conventionally, most of power generation happens in what we call steam power plants. Other name for this could be thermal power plants, where with some means we get heat, and we boil the water, we get steam, and that turns a generator. That turns a turbine, which turns a generator. So this is the most popular type. I'm going to talk about each one in detail to give you an idea. Then we also have diesel power plants, no water involved. These are like diesel car engines. We have gas turbines. Nuclear power plants are types of steam power plants. The heat here comes from nuclear reaction. In other types, they come from burning fossil fuels. So, and the final conventional one is hydroelectric power plants. And we're going to talk about these in some detail. So we get a picture of what's happening. This is the fuel oil-based steam power plant. Why I have it here is because we have this in northern Cyprus. What we have is two big steam turbines in Kıptek Technologic Power Plant, where they get the fuel, which is fuel oil number 6, from the fuel tank. It burns, gives us heat. Then the water turns into steam. The steam turns this turbine. Turbine turns the generator, and we have electricity, and it starts the journey to your home. Then that steam is then cooled from the cooling water from the sea, turned back into water, and then we heat it again, get the steam, and the cycle continues. So the only thing different here for other fossil fuel burning plants, steam power plants, is instead of burning fuel oil, they're burning coal and maybe other types of fossil fuels. Now, the second type we talked about, we also have this in Cyprus, that's why it's number 2, is the diesel type. Diesel is the technology, actually, because it's a diesel engine. It's like a diesel car engine, okay? It works with similar principle. It works with pistons. So the fuel is combusted, and then the cylinders go up and down, turns the generator, and then we get electricity. These are extremely loud, they're extremely mechanical, they're rapid in response. However, you cannot work them for 24 hours. Why? You cannot drive a car for 24 hours. You need to rest them. They're highly mechanical systems. So you need to rest. The types we have in Cyprus at least need 2 hours rest. So they work them for, I think, around 21 hours and rotate them as the need be. The other type we have here is the gas turbine. And the gas turbine is here shown. Of course, you can burn natural gas and get heat and then have a steam type of generation. But what we're talking about here, where we directly combust the natural gas in the combustion chamber, and we have a system where the hot air leaves through exhaust here, and as it is leaving, is turning this turbine, and once hot air leaves here, it sucks in cooler air through this other vent, which turns this turbine. So with this dual action, you're turning an electric generator and getting electricity. So these are rather rapid generators that can respond to load changes easily because there is no steam forming. Steam power plants are sluggish. They don't respond well to load changes. They're very slow. But diesel generators and gas turbines are very rapid. They're called very dispatchable. You can dispatch them easily to meet the load. Now, the last type is on my list. This is a typical hydroelectric dam. There are 2 types of hydro power plants. Mostly used is the reservoir type, the dam type, where you block the water and then control it through the intake, through the penstock, and it turns a turbine, which turns the generator, and then you send the electricity to the network. These are also rapid because you can control the flow of water and they respond quickly to demand changes. They're highly dispatchable. The river types are similar, but they are smaller installations. So we have there some turbine inside the river, no reservoir required. So they're more environmentally friendly. There is talk about this type of hydro not being renewable, but river type being renewable. This is all a discussion, but in the end, this is emission free. There are no greenhouse gas emissions from this type of electricity production. Any fossil fuel will create lots of greenhouse gases. And here lies the problem. The biggest culprit, there's a typo here. This should be 1.05. This is the number for how much carbon dioxide is released per kilowatt hour of electricity. You can see coal is the worst. With no scrubbing, this is technique with cleaning the coal, have it, there is 1.05 kilograms of carbon dioxide released in the air. Scrubbing, a little less, 0.9, quite a bit. This is a lot. Now, heavy oil, this is the fuel oil of thing that we use in Cyprus, 0.778 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Diesel uses similar fuel. It's also heavy oil. Diesel is the name of the technology. The fuel used is fuel oil. Basically, it's generalized as heavy oil. And then finally, natural gas. Natural gas is the most environmentally friendly of the fossil fuels. However, it still has almost half a kilo of carbon dioxide released per kilowatt hour. So what does this mean? Let me put things in perspective for you. Very small country, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. For example, in 2017, the number now is similar, it's not much greater. We produced 1.6 billion kilowatt hours in the year 2017. If we approximate, and previous pay was 0.778, depends on the fuel oil type. So let's round it up to around 0.75. So 1 kilowatt hour of electrical energy from fuel oil, we create about 0.75 kilograms of carbon dioxide. What this means is in year 2017, we put 1.2 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That's a lot. But what does that mean? So people usually want to quantify things. And for a lot of people to understand what's happening, you need to put things in monetary terms. So Environmental Protection Agency, this is the US-based one, put a monetary value on this. They said, you cause $40 of societal damage per ton of carbon dioxide. So with this number, you can see we caused $48 million of societal damage in the TRNC in year 2017. I think in the coming years, what I calculated, around 55, approaching $60 million. What is this? What's in the societal damage? Well, all the diseases, main one being cancer. Carbon dioxide is a known carcinogen. It's on the list. We're pumping it. People are getting sick. So this is the monetary value, not of human life, but of the health system dealing with these people. That's the only way you can put a monetary amount on this. It's not just cancer, other lung diseases and etc., agricultural damage, lesser value crops, lesser crops, and etc. There is a lot of economic analysis that goes into this number. This number for the US was $40. United Kingdom announced for them it's 30 British pounds, which is about the same. European Union overall announced that for them is 22 euros. So what I'm trying to say is not zero. There is a monetary damage, if you want people to notice what's the damage, you're talking, you know, millions of dollars. And for such a small country to be pumping out 1.2 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, it's quite a bit. And we are damaging our environment. And this is only carbon dioxide. There is, from fuel oil, we know that we also have sulfur dioxide and NOx gases. This damage is not included. So there is damage because of that as well. Now, if we look at, these are relatively old charts, but they just to give you an idea. I'm not after showing you exact figures. The sources of carbon dioxide, you can see by country, China is the biggest polluter. No surprise there. Is the most populated country in the world. 30% comes from China. United States is number 2, 15%. There's actually a surprising statistics here, maybe not so surprising for some of you. United States have 5% of world population, but consume 25% of all the energy. So they consume more than their share, and they're the second biggest polluter. EU has the 28 countries, 9%, India 7%, Russian Federation 5%, Japan, such a small country, 4%, and all the others 30%. So by sector, you could look at this. The biggest culprit is electricity. I told you this. We know that already. Now what to do? Now we start looking at renewable types of power plants, the non-conventional alternative ways. Photovoltaic PV is making a great push in the last 10, 20 years. Concentrated solar power, otherwise known as CSP. This is another thermal power plant I'm going to show you, except the heat comes from concentrating the sun's rays. Wind turbines, biogas, biomass, you can imagine. Geothermal is a big source. Geothermal means already existing steam underground. If you can pipe it, you can use it. Wave, tidal wave, fuel cells. Let's look at some of these. PV is the most popular, also around Cyprus. You can see you could put it on top of buildings, you can put it on top of houses, on the roof. This is actually Serhatköy, a few kilometers off of campus. I'm going to show you our campus station as well very soon. And this is the solar thermal type. So the idea here, remember, we get steam, which turns a turbine. Well, the heat here comes from concentrating the sun's rays. You could do it two different ways. One, all the mirror type things, concentrating on a tower. The heat here gets extremely high, and you can also store it and then use it when there is no sun. Heat here is concentrated onto this pipe. This is the picture. We have one of these small systems on campus. It doesn't really get used. We have it for experimental purposes. Basically, the sun's rays heat up a special superconducting fluid, which comes and boils the water, and the water turns the turbine, and we have electricity. Same principle as before. So what has been developed recently is that this heat, you can produce it in excess, and you can store it, let's say, something called molten salt, so liquid salt. This is basically in liquid form after 218 degrees C. So what they do is they heat this up till 600 degrees, and when the sun goes away, they extract the heat to get steam to continue electricity production, and they lower it to around, I think, 250, and then don't take any further. You have to keep the salt in liquid form. Recently, they've done this also with molten rock, different types of thermal media, which, you know, there's a lot of research there. It's still a bit on the expensive side, but a lot of countries started using this technology. The other one is wind power. You can have it on land, huge, offshore, also huge turbines. These are like 5, 10, 8 megawatts each. You can see a little house here just to get a perspective. Some of them have wingspans as big as one Boeing 747 airplane. Or you can have small ones on top of your house. Wind is another great resource we have. Now, just to fill you in on the research we're doing on campus, I joined METU NCC in 2011. Ali Muhtaroğlu, Ali Hoca was doing micro-level research, and he started the Renewable Energy Design Applications Research Center called RADAR. When I joined, I took over and we started doing macro level, bigger level energy search. And one of the first things we did, we purchased through a campus project means to measure how much solar resources we have in Cyprus, especially on campus. So we got a sun tracker, pyronometer, all sorts of equipment to measure solar means. And also through the same project, I got a 60-meter wind tower installed to measure also the wind resources on campus. There is now new projects that we're working on with Aselsan to turn our campus into a microgrid and also have a wind turbine. So we can have a hybrid mini system we can test. We collaborate with other universities. Of course, our own main campus in Ankara, they have a Center for Solar Energy Research. University of Liverpool, Durham University with some wind research, Ege University, Aegean University, Cyprus International University in Cyprus, and the recent one is University of Twente in the Netherlands. I visited them last fall, did a similar presentation there actually, and we started some small-scale research with them. So these are through our measurements, the solar and wind resources. I'm going to tell you what these mean. For example, we know Cyprus is sunny and we have a lot of solar resource, but I wanted to compare it to, at the time, the most known place for solar resource, which is Spain. And Almeria puts in lots of data. Spain had the most solar resources in Europe. So I compared us to Almeria, and we did better than Almeria. Okay, you can see the first 2 years I set this up. In both years, we did better than Almeria, and we are a little maybe lower than Almeria. That could be a factor. So I'm not saying we are better than all the places in Almeria, but what I've seen posted is telling me that Cyprus has the best solar resource in Europe, or very close in some places in Spain. So we have excellent solar resources. What are these numbers? These numbers are kilowatt hours per meter squared, daily averages. Why do I have Germany? Germany does not have great solar resource. Stuttgart was one of the places that had a lot of PV installations. Germany is here because at the time I was making these graphs, Germany 4 or 5 years ago was the #1 PV installation place in the world. So much so that half of all of the PV installations in the world was in Germany. Now, Germany is number 4 in the world. Number 1 is China, number 2 is Japan, number 3 is US, Germany is number 4, and they don't have as much resource as we do, but they really promoted renewable energy, especially photovoltaics, with very little solar resource. So Germany now is full of PV, and I'm going to talk about how they can do that, because it's not very healthy to fill up a system with a lot of PV. We'll touch on that too. Things started up in Cyprus. PV goes in Serhatköy. Serhatköy had a 1.3 megawatt PV power plant. I had access to that. I was looking at the data. In 2011 is the startup date. At that time was the second biggest in the region, including Turkey. Number 1 was in Israel, 2.5, I think. Now it's not on the list. We have many big ones here. So we measure how well any power plant is doing by looking at their capacity factor. Capacity factor means it's the ratio of how much energy it produced divided by how much energy it could have produced if it ran 24/7, if it ran all day throughout the year. Potential energy meaning potential energy it could have produced. So this power plant, for example, is rated 1.27 megawatts. Multiply that by 24 hours, 365 days, working at 100% efficiency, it would have produced 11.125 gigawatt hours. But it's not possible. 2/3 of the day is not sunny. You can think about a day, you get maybe what, even in a good time in the summer, say 8 hours. Let's say you have 8 hours, right? And let's say that 8 hours you could produce at 100%. What's the highest capacity factor you can get? 1/3, right? The other 2/3 you're in the dark. So 33%, let's say, is the maximum you can get with 100% efficiency, which we don't have. So a really good number would be 25, really good number. So we look at Serhatköy, we measured it. 2012, they had some technical problems, them being out sometimes. 2013 was a good year for them. So look at that number, 19.3%, about 20%. At that time, world average was 10% in capacity factor for PV. So Serhatköy doubles that. That shows you how well our solar resource works. Capacity factor actually can be used for any electric producer. For example, to compare to England, PV, they don't have much solar means. Let's say UK, all of it. This is a table just to give you an idea. PV for them 8.3, but we know they don't have solar resource in the UK. But they do have a lot of wind power capacity factor. Average around the world is 25%. For us, we never had a turbine. We will now. But we estimated if we had one on campus, our capacity factor would be around 16%. So we are well below average. UK is above. Hydro capacity factor depends on what? It depends on how much running water you have through your hydro station. UK seems to have 35% capacity factor average at the time. Coal, 42%. This is surprising and not surprising at the same time. Surprising, why? Because as long as you have coal, you can work that power plant. So it's a choice. UK decided to go away from coal. and use other means, use more renewable means. So they only work their coal power plants 42% capacity factor. Nuclear is another one where you can usually work nuclears all the time. They work close to 90% capacity factor. You never stop them. You shouldn't stop them. Okay? So just to give you an idea on capacity factors. These are choices. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to give you the example of Turkey, how choices are made for that. So here are some capacity factor numbers. You know, you could see solar panels between 10 to 25, and we are around 20. I'm going to show you our campus numbers too. Wind turbines, hydro. You see, nuclear, 89. As long as you feed the nuclear material, you work it. You don't stop it. Here is the very beginning of our PV plant on campus. This was on the first days. It didn't even have a fence around it. We have a 1 megawatt power plant. It has actually excellent energy production. We were estimating with the company that installed it, they guaranteed 1,700 megawatt hours. We got 1850, much more than expected. This means it produced 20% of what we needed in the year. And its capacity factor actually was more than, I wrote 20% approximately, but it's about 21.8. It's even higher. So because we had this PV plant, we avoided some carbon dioxide emissions. We produced it in a cleaner way than it would have been produced by Kuptek. It approximately 1 million kilos of carbon dioxide per year. And actually payback period for our investment at the time was 6 years, but we got the investment back in 4 years. It's already paid for. So that's how good the solar resource is. Now, more importantly, this towards sustainability, 1 million kilograms means it's the amount that 55,000 trees absorb from the atmosphere within the year. So it's as if we planted 55,000 adult trees. And this is a METU tradition to plant trees. So our power plant is planting 55,000 trees every year. That's how much we're cleaning from the atmosphere. So to show you some simulation of what would happen if we also had a 1 megawatt wind turbine, you can see here the red line is our demand. This is our energy demand, electrical energy demand on campus. This is the hours in the day. So the yellow one is from the PV. So sun up till sundown. This is actual measurement in June 1st, 2016. You can see we are at this point, we have excess. We have more than what we need. So this energy at the time, we are pumping it back to the grid. So we're not doing anything useful. Now we can get energy credit for it. But if we have a smart grid, you can figure out what to do with that. If we had also a wind turbine, then we would have a much bigger excess energy. Then you can talk about a grid, turn it into a smart grid with the control center. You can do a demand forecast, generation forecast. If you live in a country where there is an electricity market, you can look at the market forecast, and you can combine everything and make decisions of what to do with the excess energy. And that's what we're trying to do with our research on campus. So coming back to the bigger question, now we talked about these big power plants and the power grid and renewable energy. Unfortunately, there is an ironic relationship between these big base loading meeting power stations and renewable energy. If you need a secure supply of base load, it means that you're gonna need to have thermal power stations, nuclear, coal, natural gas, hydro, all of that, some of it which we don't want. But if we don't have that, you don't have a stable system. What I have written here, you need inertia in the system to have stability. Now, what does this mean? Let me put this in more understandable terms for non-electrical engineers or for those who's not aware of the power system stuff. Let's say very little, right? If you go 150 kilometers in a Fiat Uno, what would happen? How would you feel in the car? There's a lot of shaking, right? So it's not very stable at that speed. But if you go on a much bigger car, I don't want to go into the brands, but let's say like a Mercedes or a BMW, very big, heavy car, any big and heavy car, and you go 150 kilometers per hour in that car, you don't feel much. You don't even feel like you're going 150. So the heavier the car, the more stable at the same speed. Power system is the same thing. Heavier system, what makes the system heavy is the big turbines, right? The big turbines give you stability. So what happens if you have a small system, like an island system, like we do? If you produce your power with big turbines, then you're more stable. If you produce it with, say, PV, is there turbine in the PV? No. Power comes through electronic means. Also, wind turbines. They're small turbines. Yes, they're turbines. You can say they have some weight behind them. No, the weight disappears because the kind of electrical energy produced by a wind turbine is not the kind we have in the system. They have different frequency. Wind turbine produce intermittent power. Produce some, doesn't produce, it changes with the speed. So what do? We convert what we call AC, alternating current, into DC, and then convert it back to AC again, which is the kind we use in the power system, but we convert it into the right kind of AC with the correct frequency. So this means the power is coming from electronics. The inertia of the turbine is removed. If you produce too much from this kind of energy, your system gets into trouble. Your frequency could be ruined. There could be other problems. So, for example, Denmark is one of the biggest wind power examples. Denmark has a lot of wind. They're very developed in this technology. They could produce more than they need from wind. But when they were an isolated system, they could only produce 25 to 30%, after which their system ran into trouble. So what they did is they had tie lines with Germany. They interconnected with Germany, biggest power grid in Europe. Second biggest is Turkey. The biggest one is Germany. So Denmark was smart. After they joined with Germany, imagine the weight of Germany holding Denmark. So I'm gonna turn on my camera now to show you if I can. I don't know if you could see my keys through my virtual. Yes, you could see them. So island power system is like this, okay? Doesn't have much weight. It's shaking, not very stable. So if you produce power with stable power stations, big turbines, it means you're putting another weight onto here. You know, it gets heavier. It doesn't shake. If you produce it from PV, if you produce it from wind, you're doing this to it. It starts shaking, it becomes less stable. What do I need to do? I can put this against the wall, join it with a much bigger system. How is that possible? Well, you choose a bigger system and you connect to it. So Cyprus has 400 megawatts installed capacity, Northern Cyprus. Turkey has 93,000 megawatts. 400, 93,000. So my chain is put on the wall or on the building, right? You could touch it all you want. It won't shake. So you need, what I'm trying to say, you need a connection with a bigger power grid. Denmark did it with Germany. Maybe some of you read, every year they say, okay, Denmark produced 150% of what they needed from wind. Excess, they sold it to Germany. Doesn't matter. Even if they produce 100% and not sell it to anybody, they surpassed that 20% they had, right? Now, north-south interconnection in Cyprus, we are connecting with the system in the south, in the Greek side. They also have wind energy, 160 megawatts. Their system is 1,600. In order to meet Euro targets, they installed 10% wind power, 160 megawatts. But they noticed they cannot produce more than 66 megawatts from wind. If they do, the keychain starts shaking, so the system gets ruined. So they were limiting themselves. After interconnection with the north, a much smaller system, we have 400, their system got bigger, little heavier, so that 66 megawatts became 80 megawatts just by joining a smaller grid. So you can imagine what we can establish if we join our system with Turkey, which I'm going to talk about. As I said, Northern Cyprus, we have about 400 megawatts, all but what's in Serhatköy, 1.27, is from fuel oil number 6. We are considering a subsea interconnection with Turkey. At the time I wrote this, Turkey, actually, I forgot to update. Turkey had 85,000 megawatts. Now they have 93,000. And Turkey is connected to Europe with 3 tie lines, Bulgaria and Greece. Turkey is part of the European electricity networks. They're a member for that, an observing member. If we have a tie line with Turkey, we can increase renewable energy usage in all of Cyprus, not just the north. So here is what's being considered. We are considering an 80-kilometer connection, subsea connection. For the 10 years I've been advocating, trying to get this done. Is not done yet through various reasons, some of which were political. And at the same time, Israel, Southern Cyprus, and Greece is considering an interconnection. This is called the Euro-Asia connector. it is a total of 1,500 kilometers subsea tie line. It will cost around 3.5 billion euros. But they did some economic analysis and they said, yes, the cost is 3.5 billion euros, but the socio-economic benefit for the three countries because of this would be 10 billion euros. So 1 to 3. What is this socio-economic benefit? Many things. Greenhouse gases, health system, sharing the renewable resources, transferring possible natural gas from Israel around Cyprus to Greece using electricity. They did many analysis. So they started this. Actually, these were their targets. I think this is almost completed. Crete to Greece. They are just starting. They had a delay in this one. I think the middle part, Cyprus to Crete, this is a world record. It's very deep, never been done. It's 3 kilometers deep. I think they're going to have a tough time here with the technology, but they're after it. And we are considering this 80 kilometers still to be done. EU, what was EU doing? They had a mandate. It was called 2020 until year 2020. What was that? Every European Union country needs to have 20% of its electrical energy from renewables. They need to have 20% reduction in greenhouse gases. The carbon dioxide I was talking about is a greenhouse gas. And 20% increase in energy efficiency. And almost all the countries have met this. Cyprus, I think, one of the few that couldn't. And, they're paying some monetary penalties. But they added on top of this another mandate. They said all the EU members needs to have at least 10% interconnection between its members. What does that mean? If you have 1,000 megawatts installed in your country, you need to have 100 megawatts interchanging connections with other EU members. And these are the numbers. I couldn't find the updated ones. These are from 4 years ago. You can see most of them meeting it. And I did find out only Cyprus and Spain did not meet this mandate. Spain through, I think, choice, and Southern Cyprus through being isolated. They, they still don't have a connection with anybody, just us. So Luxembourg, they overdid this. Actually, they're very happy about it. 245%. What this means, if Luxembourg has 100 megawatts installed, they have 245 megawatts crossing through their country. So they have a huge choice in where they get the electricity. Other smart countries, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, all of this. Denmark is, I told you with the wind example, all of this was with Germany. Now I think Denmark is at 54%. They are interconnecting to Netherlands with subsea connections. So if you don't have a land neighbor, you could connect through the sea. It's not a big deal anymore. The technology is there. So here are the interconnection levels. Okay. I will try to answer some of the questions I see in the chat at the end. Now, let's talk about, talking about European Union and all the targets. One of the countries that gets applauded and drew, really high measure of interest from everybody is Germany, because they have a lot of renewable power. Here's the picture in 2018 for the mix of share of energy sources in German electrical power production. This is electricity. Look at this, an impressive 35% renewables. Really commendable. How are they doing it? Remember what I said, the ironic relationship between these and the other ugly power stations? Look at this, hard coal and lignite. Lignite is the worst kind of coal. 22%, 22.5, 13, little more than 35%. Steam power, that's what you need to support the renewables. Nuclear, also steam. So after Fukushima, Germany announced they're going to close down most of their nuclears. Did they? They closed down 2 of 16. Why? Because their life cycle ended. They couldn't close the nuclears. Why not? Because if they did, they'd have to open more coal or natural gas power plants to support the renewables. So there is an ironic relationship between them. Germany is able to do this because it has all this weight in the system, the inertia. 35% coal. Okay, so now let's look at Turkey. I don't see Turkey getting any applause or commendability, but Turkey is actually doing better than Germany. If you look at here, Turkey's renewables, let me see. Here's a better picture here. In 2019, I miswrote, there's a typo here. Look at this, hydro, which is renewable, plus 15% here, other renewable. Germany also includes hydro, so I'm including for Turkey as well. 45% renewable. Greenhouse free with the most of it. Coal, similar with you need steam power, and coal is Turkey's own resource. You cannot blame them for using coal. If you don't, you cannot support your renewable. You can have more hydro, similar with coal, but hydro is limited. It depends on the amount of rain. And natural gas. Turkey was able to limit natural gas, which is not a resource. Turkey is buying this. It has reached at points 50% of electric energy generated in Turkey was coming from natural gas. So they're able to use it now. Turkey has actually a very commendable mixture of energy. Almost half of it is greenhouse gas free. Here is some of their strategy I want to tell you. So this is energy planning, sustainable energy planning, looking at your resource. Look at production, electrical energy production in Turkey. 2016, heavy dependence still on natural gas, almost 1/3, 32.5, about 33% coal. Hydro, this depends on the rainfall. Renewable, 8.7. So through some of their planning and strategies, Turkey almost doubled the renewable in 3 years and cut natural gas in half. But they have to have the coal, because to have the renewable, you have to have a base load meeting big heavy steam power plant, or natural gas or hydro. Petroleum almost non-existent. Turkey is not using it for electricity. So this is excellent planning. I was on the committee for TRNC for the energy ministry, and we had meetings with the energy ministry in Turkey about the interconnection between the two countries. They have very valuable experts, and they do planning. And I'm hoping there is an interconnection with Cyprus so we can increase our own renewables here as well. Now let's look at what's happening around the world. Coming to an end. It's been a little bit long, but so this is 2018. It's a little bit different. What's not changed is still coal is our number one source of electricity generation, unfortunately. Look at the general picture. 64% fossil fuel, I think in 2020, we've dropped this a little bit, little less 60, but in half we are still relying on fossil fuel. Coal and natural gas, the biggest shares. Then we have hydro, 16%. Nuclear is steady at 10%. Whoever has nuclear has it. It doesn't increase or decrease too much. And renewables, 10%. This is too little, so we need to increase it. That's where it should go. Luckily, we are getting rid of oil, heavy oil. It saddens me to see Northern Cyprus, world 3% oil, Northern Cyprus 99% oil. So we need to go away from that. And we have the renewable resources to do it. Now, Hawaii is an extreme case. Look at this. Hawaii is an isolated island. No connection possibilities, really. And even though they had a lot of solar resource, they were also, like Cyprus, petroleum fired, coal fired, very little hydro. And they have some non-hydroelectric renewables, not that much. This is 2018. But they started the program. This is the Hawaiian electric companies. They wanted by 2045, they set a modest goal in basically 25, 27 years. They were going to, through technology and other means, reach 100% clean energy. Okay, and they can do it. So now, how does smart grids help? What is a smart grid, first of all? It's a concept, basically. We're gathering advanced information. We have a lot of sensors. We communicate among sensors, and we control all the energy technologies and make smart decisions. All of this put together results in an intelligent power system where you have power generators and you have electricity consumers, and the third time evolved now. They're called prosumers. They're producers and consumers at the same time. Our campus is a prosumer. We consume electricity, we also produce electricity, 1 megawatt power plant. So smart grids help us efficiently deliver sustainable, economic, and secure electricity supplies. Renewable energy and smart grids go hand in hand. Basically, all this technology help us integrate renewables more effectively into the mix of things. I talked about Denmark. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, just wanted to show you this as a reference. Denmark has an interesting system because wind energy is so sensitive, it can hurt their system. They split their system into several islands and have DC connections between them. DC does not have frequency. It's a safe way to connect two systems. So if one has problems, it doesn't transfer to the other one. And that's the kind of connection we're considering with Turkey undersea, a high voltage DC tie that makes everything possible, but does not transfer any possible problems from one side to the other. So Denmark did this. They also have what they call virtual power plants. Basically, without having any power plant, you can buy and sell energy through their smart grid system. They do at times, I told you, produce more than 100% of their energy from wind, but they want to have their overall energy production 50% coming from wind by year 2025. In 5 years' time, they're going to produce half of energy, upgrade their grid. They found out if they wanted a smart grid, the upgrades would be around, this is the Denmark currency, DKK 1.6 billion. For traditional, 5 times that, DKK 7.7 billion. So smart grids actually cheaper and more efficient for countries who want to do it. So finally, this is it's not easy to get all of this done, and it doesn't even start with technology. It starts with economics, policy changes, regulatory changes. We need to make things cheaper. We need to have the policy makers, regulation makers, people in charge, putting the right policies in place, effectively managing everything. So we have the people enough incentives to go to renewable energy. We can extract maximum value from that. So if we can all do that, if the right economics is there, policies are there, engineers will take care of the rest. And this is because I'm on the engineering side. I can't control this other side. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, hocam. If you have any question, notice.
Let me look at, actually, there were some questions in the chat.
Yes, hocam. Let me see. Is this electricity?
Okay, only one question.
Yes, hocam.
Okay, there was actually one question from Nasser. Is this electricity given away for free? Was that the extra energy produced on campus? I think
it's not for it, hocam. You said there was some country that produce more energy than they need. So
yeah, Denmark. They sell it to Germany. Yes.
Hocam, he said no.
Oh, the 10% electrical interconnection. That's Nasser is explaining. No, interconnections with other countries, you signed your trade agreements with them. Each country signs a trade agreement and they buy and sell power to each other. Actually, the way we do it with the South, we are connected to Southern Cyprus, the Greek side. We try not to buy and sell, we stay connected. So if we take energy from them, we compensate it at another time. When we have excess energy, we give some to them. When we need it, we take it. So we try to balance it energy-wise. If we can't give them back, have a treaty that allows us to pay them the amount. And they usually charge us the heavy amount. But other countries usually have, regular favorable means to buy and sell from each other.
Hocam, Hüsnü.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes. Hüsnü, could you please?
Okay.
Hocam, hello. I have a question.
Hi, Hüsnü, go ahead.
What is the biggest handicap, hocam, for solar panels to work more efficiently? you talk about stability. Combining different generation systems makes the generation more stable. What about material-wise,
Yes.
hocam? Can we get more energy from the sun, changing the material that we use in solar panels? Can we say that is the best we can get so far?
Well, we keep pushing that up. It started, I think the first time I started looking at the PVs, we were talking about 10, 12% efficiency, then to 15. Regular ones you buy today, 16, 17, good ones around 20%. So it keeps coming up. This is a different type of technology. This is, I think, on the chemical engineering side. At the end, the PV panel has a chemical material. When the solar rays hit it, they release electrons. So different materials are being tried out, and that's always developing. It's not my area, but it's a big challenge. And that's actually a needed kind of research. The higher the efficiency, the better, of course. But they get more expensive, so economics come into play.
Hocam, I have another question. If you let me, I can ask.
Sure.
Hocam, and for when the speed of the diesel generator engines increases, the voltage generation is also increases.
No.
My question.
Why you say that?
Because hocam, the motors, when the motor RPM is increasing, the voltage generation is increasing.
Okay. I said no, but let me answer it differently. We have to talk about a synchronous generator, because all the generators connected to the power system need to produce electricity at in Cyprus 50 hertz, in US 60 hertz. This means RPM is fixed. We don't allow it to change. They have to work at synchronous speed.
Okay, hocam, thank you.
With the wind turbines, the speeds change with the wind speed, right? Then you have all sorts of frequencies. And that's what I was talking about. We convert that to DC and then convert it back to 60 hertz AC again. Or there are some converters that take variable frequency and directly convert it to 60 hertz frequency, removing the DC link. But in any case, this is all done through. Okay?
Thank you, hocam.
Yes?
May I?
I will stop sharing. Yes, Hocam.
May I say a few things?
Of course, Hocam.
There was a paper which was published about a year ago by some Swedish scientists, chemists in fact, claiming that they are going to increase the efficiency of PV cells to about 30%. And they were asking for about 2 years before the technology becomes feasible. I think they are using, instead of organometallic materials, they are using polymers, or they wish to use polymers to increase the efficiency. And some US scientists, some US researchers have shown that the efficiency of PV cells can go up to 35% if the right materials are chosen. That's one point that I just wanted to.
Yes, Hocam. This is in sight now, as you said.
Yes.
They can see it. They can see we can get up to 30, even 35%, but they haven't made the breakthrough.
No.
That's why they're asking for the 2 years.
It is a very novel model. It's a very novel model of production. So it has not been commercialized yet, but I'm sure in a few years' time, somebody will do it, and it will go up to maybe 40%. And
so that has been the trend.
Yes.
they first find the technology, they do it, but it's not economical, as you said. And then they find an economical way to do it, and then they share it with the rest of the world. Yes.
Yes, right. So in about a decade, I think PV is going to become very cheap. I mean, production will be very, very cheap. And probably it will overtake coal, or it will remove coal. Another point is this, some data that you have shown to us about UK has been replaced by newer data now.
Yes, yes, that was very old, Hocam. That's
Yes.
just...
Last year, I think it was in August, they stopped all the coal plants for about 1 month.
Yes.
They didn't need any coal product. They didn't need any electricity from coal production.
From coal.
So
That's correct.
Yeah, so they're on the right track. They're going to remove all the coal plants or diminish them.
Yes, Hocam, very interesting fact about the UK. You probably remember, I think it was 60s or 70s, they had mandatory coal burn. That
Yes,
they
I know.
wanted everything from coal because they wanted to support their coal industry.
Yes.
And it's great to see going from that to having no coal.
Well, actually,
You
they
know.
passed a law. They passed. When I was a student in London, that was back in 1964. No, 62, 63. We had a period of about 60 days when the sun was not shining.
Oh, wow.
We used to have smoke. It's not smoke, it's smoke mixed with particles.
Oh, smoke, okay.
Carbon
Okay.
dioxide, nitrogen oxides, etc., etc. And we were not allowed to go in the open.
Because the atmosphere was not safe to breathe.
And they then passed this Clean Air Act.
Yes.
And I think about 5,000 people died that year. And now they're virtually free. I mean, free of pollutants in the air. Sometimes you get it in London for a few days, but that's all. Now,
and they also have a lot of wind energy now.
Yes, they do have a lot of wind energy. And they have, of course, in the North Sea, they have vast reserves of gas, natural gas. So Aberdeen has become the energy center of United Kingdom nowadays. One more point that I wish to point: heat is not energy, so please stop calling it heat energy.
Okay. Yes.
It's a mechanism of transfer of energy.
Did I say, Hocam? I never said heat energy. I said maybe thermal. I may have misspoke. I'm sorry.
Energy is not heat energy anyway. In thermodynamics, we stopped calling work and heat energies. They are not forms of energy.
I didn't mean to, Hocam. I also sensitive.
It's a mechanism of transfer of energy.
Yes.
Due to the temperature differences in bodies. So if you have a temperature gradient, you have some energy flowing from the higher temperature to the lower temperature. That is heat mechanism or transfer of energy. I just want to make this
Thank
point.
you, Hocam. If I said it, I misspoke. Yes, I didn't.
Yeah, we don't talk of heat energy anymore.
Yes.
Thank you for this interesting and very valuable contribution. There are a few points that I didn't know. Now I've been enlightened.
Thank you.
Recently, another comment that I wish to make. I think the ministry announced 2 days ago that they're evaluating a project of using concentrated solar energy.
Well, that's great. They announced this.
20 megawatts of concentrated solar energy.
Excellent.
Yes, excellent. The minister, Hassan Tachoy, Minister for Energy, announced it in one of his speeches about 2 days ago. They have reserved an area of about 1,000 dönums.
Okay.
And they're going to...
How is that in kilometer square, hocam, do you know?
Well,
is it about 1 kilometer square?
It's about 1 kilometer to 1 kilometer.
Yes, I've been telling them this for the past 3 energy ministers.
Yes.
To reserve a 1 kilometer square area and do a CSP.
He says
Yes.
that they have reserved this area and they're going to invite the private sector to come and do something there. And
Yes, great.
in the pipeline, they have this project, 20 megawatts of concentrated solar power. That will, of course, in the long run, it will mean that we shall be able to install more solar panels on our houses, on the roofs.
Yes,
there.
because solar thermal is
inertia.
It will bring inertia, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, hocam, for that great news. I'm happy about that.
Hocam, there is a question in the chat. Could you please?
Okay, let me see. Okay, let me read. Hocam, can we say in the close future solar panels and other methods replaced with fossil fuel suppliers? With the PV, it's not, I wouldn't say it would replace in a major way. My guess is this other type, the solar thermal, can do a major replacement, but the ratio of PV, the penetration of PV into the mix will be much higher because we are having more and more stable systems now. As we interconnect more and more, as Europe did, it means we can inject more renewable energy. And solar is surpassing, actually it was a slide I forgot to include. In this year and next, solar will surpass wind. Wind was the #1 renewable. Now solar is, and solar will continue the trend. And in 2040, I think solar would be the second technology. #1 would be natural gas, is what they're predicting. Solar will be #2. And coal will diminish, will go away. That's the interjection.
Is there another question?
Can I comment on this question?
Of course, hocam. Yes.
ABB is a very big company, as you already know.
Yes, big electrical company, yes.
Yes, and they have announced, I think about a year ago, that by 2060, at least most of Europe, China, Japan, Russia, and the North American continent will be renewable.
Yes, that's the plan.
This is their contemplation, and some of you will be alive by that date, and you will see whether it will be okay or not. It will be fulfilled or not. We shall not be able to see it, but anyway, the younger generation will be there. So mark my point, mark my sentences. 2060 is the target date for
all renewable
energy in Europe, North America, Japan, Russia, and China. 100%.
Europe, I think, is aiming to 2050. And then 10 years after, the rest of the people, yes.
ABB says 2060 for this region, for these regions.
Let's hope for even sooner.
Comment that I just wanted to push in.
Thank you, Hocam.
I think we can get the last question because it gets...
Okay, one last question.
One last question. It will be better, Hocam. Sorry for any inconvenience.
No problem. No, I'm enjoying this. No problem. Okay. If at any time you have energy-related questions, you know my email. You can ask me. And I
would like to ask
better times.
I would like to ask a question.
Me in person. Yes, Caner.
Hocam, you know, nuclear power plants has very adverse effects on people's health, but they have very effective. They produce very effective percentage of energy. I mean, as you mentioned, 90% of energy that's produced by nuclear power plants can be used. So I would like to ask what you, as electrical engineer, interested in these topics and mastered in this topic. What do you think about the nuclear power plants? Thank you so much.
Okay. Let me correct a few things. Nuclear power plants operated within all the regulations are not harmful to health. So if you obey all their safety rules and be careful with radioactivity, then they're clean, right? There is a major risk from, let's say, natural disasters, like what happened in Fukushima, the tsunami, or earthquakes, that kind of things. But nuclear is a clean energy because it releases no greenhouse gases. There is the risk of malfunction due to disasters or human error, right? Like what we saw in Chernobyl. This is what scares people, right? So having said this, there is what Americans call not in my backyard, right? So I can say, okay, nuclear energy is clean, no greenhouse gas emissions, but if somebody asks me, would you want one built in Kalkan or Güzelyurt? I would say no, because you don't trust it. It's a psychological issue. But if operated carefully, and there are no natural disasters to cause damage, then nuclear energy is clean energy. And now they're actually working on what they call micro reactors. So you get them in closed form, you plug them in, you use them, and you send them away. No risk of leakage. So cleaner or safer nuclear energy. And every developed country you look around the world has nuclear, right? So you look at France actually has 80% of their energy from nuclear energy. So if you do it properly, then it's good technology. It helps in the transition to renewables.
Thank you so much, John. There is a long question in the chat.
Oh, okay. I just saw it.
Very
One
long.
point to nuclear energy. What are you going to do with the spent fuel rods? You've got to regenerate them, enrich them, and only a few countries can do that. You've got to transfer.
Russia and US, hocam.
Yeah, you've got to transfer all the spent rods to those countries and get refurbished ones. That's
Yes.
a lot of work. And
Yes.
this is where the main danger is.
Yes.
This is the third. They're running into the third generation of nuclear reactors nowadays. The third
Yes.
generation is very friendly, I should say, or if you abide by the rules and
Yes.
regulations. And
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, hocam.
yeah, but the spent fuel rods is a nuisance. So probably it will take many more years to go nuclear.
Yes, we will see actually now with this renewables and needing to support the renewables with the big power plants and the danger in the nuclears, how it will play out. Because definitely the risks are there and we don't know how it's handled.
Right.
Let me read the long question, okay?
Hocam, it starts with Hocam.
Yes, the world is in an energy let me read it out loud. The world is in an energy transformation and this will be very costly. According to released data, Turkey has not received any grant. One of the states receiving money, the UK, for example, has announced that it will switch to renewable by 2030. They even say they will announce the energy transfer 2050 in a few years. Turkey has a very strong competitors in the renewable energy. Okay, let me answer this far. This is not a competition. We are all going to try to switch to renewable. What I will say, Turkey is in a strong position to use more renewable because it has a very strong power system. It has the inertia and it's connected to Europe. I can say the frequency in Turkey has gotten 100 times better when it connected to Europe. Frequency in electricity is 50 hertz. So in Turkey, it was moving around 50.01. Now it got 2 more zeros in there, 50.0001. So Turkey has a very stable power grid, and it could pump in much more renewables than, say, UK is isolated. It's an island. It is connected to Europe by a subsea cable that is very small. So they need to increase that, or they need to increase the technology to increase their stability in the power system. Let me read the other one, is the same thing. Okay, it's written twice. Turkey is this is the trend. Turkey has gone through successful switch to privatization, has now opened independent power producers. We can go invest in a power plant and sell to the market if we want. And they're trading with Europe at the moment through Bulgaria and through Greece. So Turkey is in good shape with energy. You don't need to receive any grants. They are doing self-supported stuff. For example, let me comment on this as well. Through this natural gas deal around Cyprus, when foreign investors, companies, energy companies coming, drilling, looking for natural gas around Cyprus, around Turkey, they pushed Turkey into a corner about this, and Turkey purchased its own ships. Now it's very capable of looking, finding, and it has found natural gas. So it doesn't need to receive any grants. I think it's self-sufficient in the transition to renewable energy and finding cleaner sources. So I think the situation in Turkey is not bad. That's my short answer for that. Okay, I think that's it, Caner.
Yes, hocam.
Thank you for having me.
Hocam, thank you for being here. It's